there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I've got a lot of fun. I've got a lot of fun home decor crafts coming your way. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we'll be working on some country farmhouse Christmas garlands. So let's get started with project number 1. For this project, we'll be using lots of fabrics today. This first one came from Hobby Lobby. The second two came from Jubilee Fabric. Yes, I'll have links down below. This is just some decorative burlappy type of fabric. I got it at Joann's a long time ago. I'm going to use the backside. And this is actually a placemat. I think I've seen them at Walmart, but I got mine at a craft or a thrift store, and they were like 25 cents each, and I got them because they're really heavy duty and I thought they'd work well. And we'll also use a little bit of batting material. And so what I'm going to do first is just kind of cut off the end here. I don't need that little strip, and I'm going to make these about 6 inches wide. And I'm going to just cut 2 because I'm going to take the 2 and then cut them in half. But yeah, I think I've seen these at Walmart. You could use anything for backing that you want. I just thought these would add some great texture. Like I said, 25 cents at a thrift store. And I just thought it added a nice country feel to it. So now I'm going to cut it or fold it in half and cut it. And then the top cut part, it's okay if it's crooked or whatever. We're covering that up. But the bottom has that little bit of decorative edge. And I'm going to leave that, of course. And it's okay that they're a little bit stained here and there. Yes, I washed them first beforehand. We're going to cover all that up. So I just made a simple triangle pattern here. It's about a little over 4 inches, but I think I cut it down to about 4 inches. I cut it down a little bit more for how tall it is. And then the width along the bottom is about 3.5. And I think I cut that into about 3.25. And then I'm going to use the back side of this kind of decorative burlappy fabric. Like I said, I got it like 4 or 5 years ago at Joann's. I just didn't have a brown fabric I liked. And I'm going to just cut these like 1.25 inches. I'm going to cut 4 of them. We're just going to use them for little tree trunks, okay? Get 4 of those cut. And now here comes the batting. I'm going to fold it in half and then, of course, lay my decorative fabric on top and then cut out the triangle shape. Now the stripe and the larger check, I'm only going to cut 1. And then the smaller check, I'm going to cut 2 of those for trees. And I'm doubling my fabric. You don't have to. I'm just doing it because I want it to be thicker. Okay? Again, Jubilee Fabrics for this check material, and I'll have that down below in the description box, the links. So one more of the smaller check. I did this in all greens, and then I did one in like reds that I think turned out really pretty. And now I'm going to cut a little bit more batting, just 1 piece each, 1 thickness, and not quite the whole length of the tree trunk because I don't want it too thick. I want about 1/2 inch of that tree trunk, no batting, so that it can lay a little bit flatter underneath the bottom of the tree. All right, I'm going to use some muslin material here. I'm going to cut it about 1.5, 2 inch here and then rip it all the way down for the length. It's about 5 feet in length from what I ripped off. And what I'm going to do is start laying my trees down first, set that muslin aside. Lay the tree trunks in the order that I want. Tree trunks, these are the trees. Lay the trees in the order that I want, and then lay my tree trunks underneath, again with the top part that doesn't have any batting under it, underneath the bottom of that tree. Okay. Super cute, super quick garland here. And now if you're a gluer, you can go ahead and take it and just glue all of these down. Okay, I'm going to, of course, take mine to the sewing machine. If you're using batting, glue your batting together, glue all your pieces together, glue them down. You can use 1 piece of batting, 2 pieces of batting, no batting. If you don't have any, you can use a little stuffing in there, whatever you prefer. And I'm going to go ahead, like I said, I'm going to sew all of my pieces to the placemat background. I'm pretty sure I've seen these at Walmart. But you could use like a heavier cotton fabric for the back, just whatever you want. I just liked the color of it and the texture of it. I just thought it went well with this. And they had like 6 of these, 25 cents each. I'm like, perfect. All right, just sewing one here, and then I'll do the rest off camera. And I don't care if my sewing's crooked. I don't care if the batting's hanging off the end. That's the way I want it. I want it to kind of have that quilted look as we've been working on. See, this is what it looks like, and you can see my sewing's like in further on one side than the other. I don't care. It gives it its country charm. Now what I want to do is I just want a little something around the edge of our background banner piece. If you're a gluer or even a sewer and you want to do some hand stitches around the edge of it with like some thicker, like a crochet thread or embroidery floss or anything like that, you can certainly do that. I'm just going to take it to my sewing machine with a little bit darker thread, not too much because I want it there but subtle, and I'm going to go all the way around and then kind of come back around again and do it twice, and I'm making it crooked and overlapping this little sewing border on purpose. Again, gives it that country charm, I think. Finish that up. I'll show you what it looks like. Here it is. Here's all of them. You can see how crooked the sewing is, that kind of thing. Looks wonderful to me. So now I'm going to kind of place my pieces apart here. I'm going to measure about 1.5 inches apart. Okay? About 1.5 inches here. Just kind of get it in order, see where I want it to be, and then we'll kind of move on here to our muslin piece we ripped a long time ago, right? I'm going to fold it in half, find my center, and mark it with a pin. Because that pin where it's going to be the center is where I'm going to place in between the two middle trees, so to speak. And now I'm just kind of going along and just kind of pinning pinning that fold together. How should I say that? Because we're folding it in half. I'm just kind of pinning it together to keep it together for now. Okay? Both sides here. And then if you're a gluer, so here's I'll go back to that. My pin's going to be in the middle of my two banner pieces, and I'm going to take that banner piece and kind of put it right in the center of that folded muslin strip, and I'm just going to pin it in here. Okay, I'm going to do that to all of my pieces. All right, and again, about 1.5 inches apart. Once they're all pinned into place, I'm going to actually sew along the top of that strip, along the bottom, and then up and down vertical on each end of the banner piece, okay? If you're a gluer, just go ahead and glue the whole muslin strip together, folded. Make sure you glue the front and the back side of the piece on your banner pieces so it's in there nice and sturdy, and you can use a fabric glue or a hot glue. You all know I like to give you the sewing or gluing option. I don't want to exclude anybody. And so here I am just getting my sewing portion down. And the reason I went top and bottom, I could have just went through the middle, all right, sewing that strip onto those banner pieces, but I thought I'd give it a little bit more of a decorative look, kind of going all the way across the top and all the way across the bottom of that strip. All right, and if when you rip your piece, if it keeps folding under on the ripped end, just before you pin it to everything, just go ahead and iron it out to keep it nice and straight, okay? Because I know once you rip fabric, a lot of times it likes to kind of fold under, and we want that ripped edge to show, because otherwise why do we rip it for, right? So here I'm coming around one end. You can see how I kind of turned it on the end and then sewed that, and then I'm coming back along the top edge here. I finished sewing all along that bottom edge. And I'm just showing this kind of in this first one. For those of you that are sewers, you want to see the whole process. But in the other ones, I just kind of skip forward a little bit more. But here I am kind of coming all the way down to the end here. And then you'll get to see a little bit more how I come around that end because it's closer up here when I come to the end. And then I turn it and just come down that way too. You don't have to do that. Now you can see I'm coming up and down vertical, kind of right where I sewed around on that banner for that decorative stitch. You can see that there, put a little arrow there for you, and I backstitched 2 or 3 times. Again, I am doing this because I thought it added a little more stability. Don't know if it needed done, but I'm doing it, okay? And I'll do that all the way across, and yeah, you can see how when I sew it, and I pull it out, I just kind of move that thread as well, so I don't have to keep cutting it in between each of the banner pieces. I kind of move the thread with me and behind it so it doesn't get stuck, and move it over, and it takes a lot of time out of, having to cut in between each piece. Those of you that are sewers, all right? And then I just kind of clip it apart off camera. This is what it looks like, all right? See that? Okay, now I've got a couple of buttons here. I'm going to use buttons on all of the garlands today, just kind of at the end where we make loops to just give it a little bit of a decorative touch, but I don't like naked holes on the buttons. Sometimes I leave them naked, but not very often. So I'm just taking some crochet twine, I'm running it through and then knotting it off on the back. And yes, my buttons are backwards because I don't like that side, but I like the plain side. So why not turn your buttons over, right? Cut those off, set them aside for a minute. This is what they look like, of course. And then I've just got some little pieces of greenery I've cut. I've got some cream and red twine I've already tied into bows, and then these tiny little bells you can get at Dollar Tree, a little 50 pack. What I'm going to do first is about 2.5 inches in length. I'm going to fold each end of our hanging part of the garland in, and you can glue it shut if you're a gluer. I'm going to sew it shut, so I'm going to pin it right here where I'm going to sew it. I'm going to do each end exactly the same, so we've got the exact same measurement on both ends of the banner pieces. This is what that looks like. All right, we'll set that aside for a minute, and then I'm just going to start gluing the greenery at the bottom of the tree, at the top of the tree trunk here, one on each side, and then glue the little bow in the center of each one. And you don't have to use greenery, you don't have to use, I mean, you might just want a piece of twine there, you might just want a little bit of greenery, you might just want you might not want anything. Do what you like, okay, and it'll look gorgeous. But I thought it would be nice to a little bit of greenery, a little bow, and then add a little bell in the center just to kind of kick up the, decorative touch on this banner a little bit. And then I'll show you what this looks like a little bit up close. Here's what it looks like. And then the last thing we're going to do is I'm just going to glue my buttons on at the juncture where I sewed, or if you glued, glue the buttons where you glued. And then that makes this project complete. Let's move on to project number 2. For this garland, we're going to have several fabrics again, and the 2 plaid looking ones I got at Walmart, and then this one I picked up at Joann's. It's kind of a fleece fabric, and I liked it because I can kind of cut the little pieces out. And then I'm using this blanket again like I used in my last video that I got at a thrift store. If you don't have anything like that, you could use a heavier cotton. And then these are extra little pieces of a quilt that I have been cutting up for my projects. Again, I showed that in my last video. I have the link down below for you in case you missed it. And what I'm doing is we're going to do our own quilting, okay, if you don't have any quilting. And so I've just cut out pieces that I like. I'm doubling it just to give it a little more thickness and lay it together how you like. If you're a gluer, what you'll do is lay 2 pieces together and glue it at the junction, and then when you open it, it looks finished. And then you can lay the other piece on top of these pieces, just however you like it. Lay it open and it all looks finished, and you've got kind of a quilted look, right? I'm going to take mine to the sewing machine, of course, and we'll get that sewn here. I'm going to cut a piece of batting here. If you want to use batting, we're going to come back to that. And so right here, I'm sewing my 2 pieces together, and then I'm adding that 3rd piece. So you just lay your pieces together how you want them, and then you sew or glue them at the open edges. Now this is a mitten. It's a free printable I found on Pinterest. I'll have a link down below to my board where I pinned it. It's actually like a set of 4. I just cropped it, enlarged it how I want it, so you can see how big I cropped it to. 6.5 inches tall, 5 1/8 inches wide from the thumb across. And I'm using the batting again, doubling it, and I'm laying my little quilted piece on top the direction I want, because I'm wanting to kind of get that cocoa word in the mitten. So I'm pinning that pattern piece on. And you don't have to use 2 layers of batting. You can use 1 or none at all. And then I'm just cutting out my pattern piece here. And I, of course, am going to do this for 5 mittens, I believe, and I arranged each of the mittens in different orders that I wanted them to be. And I'll show you that coming up here in a minute. This is what this looks like cut out. It's super cute, right? So it's kind of fun to quilt those together. I'm going to use this blanket as the back piece. Remember on the last video, I used it as a back piece, and I took my pattern just like I'm doing here, and I'm going to cut out about 1/4 to 1/2 inch around out past the border of that pattern. You don't have to do this. You can cut it the same size as you want, because if you use batting, you're going to need a backing. You kind of want to cover that batting up, right? Make it look pretty on the back side. You could use regular, like I said, a thicker fabric if you want. You can use same fabric as in your mittens, however you want to do it. I just want a little border around it, and it's probably going to be easier to see than I'm telling you. So if you like that look, you can do it. Lay it on here and see that's what it looks like. You've got that little border around it, and it looks like I've got about a little 1/4 inch border and all my pieces layered on top. Right, if you're a gluer, you can just glue all that together. I'm going to, of course, take mine to the sewing machine and sew around the perimeter. All right, this one we're going to kind of do the top of our, where the mittens hang the same, but we're not going to put it inside our ripped muslin strip. We're going to put it over the top, and I'll show you how that looks, of course, when we get to that. I'm choosing to kind of put it over the top of the mitten because we're going to kind of clip them in with some little cute clothespins, but you could do it either way. You could do it just like we did the trees and slide them in between the layer of that ripped muslin if you want, but I thought this would give it, again, a little bit something for the decor. All right, get this done here. I'm kind of showing the whole process. Those of you that are sewers want to see it. It's here for you, of course. All right, this is what that looks like. And again, I don't care if my sewing's crooked. I don't care if some batting's hanging out. I like it. All right, so now this is what I did with those little leftover pieces of blanket, quilted blanket that I cut apart. I freehanded it into a heart and just kind of sewed around it. You could freehand it into a heart or a square, and you don't have to sew around if you're not a sewer, and then just glue it on, because as you see here, I've got some that are hearts and some that are just plain square. If you're a gluer, you could add some hand stitching around the little pieces. And again, if you don't have quilted fabric, you know, you can just cut a regular piece of fabric and put it on there. You don't have to have anything on there if you don't want. Just lots of ideas. So again, here's my ripped piece of muslin, about the same width again, a couple of inches. I'm folding it in half. All right, if you're a gluer, you can glue it all the way down if you want to do it the way I'm going to do this one, or you can choose to do it how I did on the last garland. All right, and I'm just sewing all the way down. Again, I'm sewing all the way down across the top, and I'm turning and then sewing down across the bottom. If you want to sew it and just sew it across the middle of the strip, you can. Okay, either way is fine. And again, if you're a gluer, you just kind of glue the whole strip together. I want to show this process a little bit so that you see all of that. And then this is what it looks like when it's done. Again, wonky stitches, don't care. Now I am finding the center again. I'm not placing the mitten on the center. I'm just showing you what I'm going to do here. We're going to move it. The center is going to be in between the two mittens like we did in between the tree garland. If you're a gluer, you can just glue it right on top. If you're a sewer, you can sew along the top. All right, now I've got my mittens in the place I want them to be, and I'm placing them again about 1.5 inches apart. So that's why I marked the center of my muslin strip there. And then I'm just going to pin them where I want them to be. Again, if you're a gluer, you just glue them right on top. Okay, if you're a sewer, I'm pinning them into place, and we're just going to sew them right on top. Now, I don't have a lot of fabric above the mitten, okay? And what I mean is that blanket material above the mitten, because I only want to sew on that blanket material, okay? And so I'm going to actually do a little gluing as well to make it stable. So on the end, just like we did last time, fold the ends over about a couple of inches here, and you can glue it or sew it. Right here I am sewing those end pieces to make our loop so we can hang our garland. Right, I'll do one on each end, and I went back and forth about 4 or 5 times so it's nice and stable. And now here I am sewing across the top of the mitten. Now I could have sewn twice, you know, and then kind of sewn onto the decorative fabric of the mitten, but I really didn't want to do that, okay? So I just sewed once across the top, and then I'll show you in a minute how I'm going to glue from behind so that that muslin strip is glued onto the back of the mitten so it's more stable. So, and maybe I'm adding a few extra steps that don't need to be there, but I just thought it kind of hung funny. So see how it's kind of a little more floppy here? It's because there's that little excess fabric because where I didn't sew. So I'm going to come in and glue that down, right? And then I go ahead to off camera and kind of glue the muslin strip closed where it's folded. But it just made it more stable. Okay, now I'm coming in and I'm adding a couple of buttons again for the area where we, made our loop. So I'm just adding that crochet string in there. Sorry about that. I've jumbled my words all my life, so I'm not professional, but there you go. Making some bows. I'm making them all so that the loops are the same measurement and stuff. That's just me. That's just how kind of obsessive I am about it. I like everything exactly even and making the tails kind of even as well. I'm going to do 5 of these, of course. And then the little bells, they have that loop for hanging. I take some pliers and I kind of smush it down. See how it's kind of now it's flat. You don't see that little loop sticking up. That helps it so much better when you're just gluing on top. I do that all the time when I don't want to attach the bell. I just kind of want to glue it on top of like ribbon or something like that. So I'm smushing those little loops down inward toward the bell. Again, just easier for gluing them down later. Now what I'm going to do is, here is why I just sewed once across the top and we sewed it on top of that muslin strip, because I'm using these cute little short fat clothespins. I get them from Walmart. They're actually in the office section because they're shorter and fatter. If you go in the craft section, you either get little mini ones or you get like skinny taller ones, and these are little shorter fatter ones. And I am adding a little glue, of course, and then just putting them right over the top of that mitten and that muslin strip. And then that's going to just give it a decorative look and make sure that everything stays in place. I'm adding the bow kind of right underneath that clothespin on each of the mittens, and of course adding that little bell right over the top of that. If you want, you could take the clothespins and, rub a little ink on them and kind of distress them up a little bit, but I decided to leave them plain because it just worked. And it's less work that I have to do. Get the last bow and bell on there, and then we're going to go ahead and attach our buttons at the very end where our loops are. And then that makes this project complete. Let's move on to our last project, number 3. For this project, I'm going to use some of this felt I get at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to use some of this. It's 100% like all cotton batting. I get it off eBay, and it actually comes like an inch thick, like this. And then I just kind of pull it apart so I can get like double use out of it. I'll have a link down below for you. You could use a regular batting or just stuffing, however you want it. Here's regular batting. I want to make kind of a quilted look. So I have a free printable for you, a free pattern. Link will be in my description box to take you to my blog to get this pattern. You guys have, I've got a lot of people, I don't know how many people asking me for gingerbread projects. Here's one for you. Use this pattern. It's about 8.5 inches tall, I think, and we're going to go with it. All right, so I'm just going to pin this to my felt. I'm going to cut out 2 pieces, all right? This is what that looks like, cut out 2 pieces, and I've already also cut my thick batting out as well. If you want to just use the thin batting, of course, you'll cut that out, same size. So this is what that looks like. And of course, I'm just going to sandwich that thick batting in between my two pieces of felt. All right. Now, if you don't want to go this option, if you're a gluer, you're probably going to have to go this other option, okay? So, because this, you have to sew to do what I'm going to do here. So if you're a gluer or you want to do this option as well, you can sew or glue around the perimeter. You can see how I've sewn around it here, or glue around the perimeter that way. Leave a spot open. Okay, see here, you can glue around it or sew around it, leave a spot open, and then stuff that gingerbread. And then, of course, sew or glue that opening closed. And you've got a cute little stuffed gingerbread. It would work wonderful. I'm going to show you quilting here. Kind of make it look like a pattern. Now I'm going to go it's about 1.25 inches in between my lines. All right, so I'm going to sew a couple of lines here at a diagonal, all in the same direction, those of you that are sewing. Now, if you don't want to do this, I will have a link down below to some fabric from Joann's that you can purchase, and it's already done for you. All right, so that you can see what that looks like here. And I'm just going to continue down the line about 1.25 inches in between each one, sewing at a diagonal. Here's what that looks like. Okay, now we're going to go the opposite direction. Same procedure. So when we're done, we kind of have like a diamond shape pattern here for those of you, of course, that are sewers. You don't want to purchase the quilted fabric already done, but hey, if I would have had time or would have thought of it, I probably would have purchased the quilted fabric first, but I already had this, and I'm like, you know, why spend more money? Let's do it myself. So this is what it looks like when it's all done. And again, I'll have a link down below to Joann Fabrics. You could probably any fabric store really and just, you know, look up quilted fabric and get the color you want. But I'll have that link down below for you, those of you that are gluers and you want this look. And then you would just glue, you know, cut your gingerbread out and then glue your batting or whatever in between, and it's already done. Now I'm going to make some eyes here. If you're a gluer and you go the other option of the gingerbread I showed you, you're probably going to want to do the eyes first, okay? But I couldn't put the eyes on first because I'm sewing this, right? And so the beads would get in the way. And also if you purchase the quilted fabric and cut it out, you can put the eyes on first. But since I was sewing it, I have to do it later. So I'm going to come in between the two layers of fabric, making sure I don't come out the fabric like here. I'm going to go in between the two layers of fabric in the middle of that batting and making sure I don't come out the back side either, and just come down to the couple of spots where I made some marks to put my eyes. Okay, and I'm using a really nice kind of thin needle, just some regular thread here. We're going to hide that knot in that batting. I'm going to go ahead and add a bead here, and then I'm going to come across. I'm going to kind of make my second eye like at a diagonal and make it cute. I'm going to come back in close to where I came out and then come across to the other side about 1/4 inch away. And then I'm going to add my second bead, coming back through the fabric close to where I came out, and then I'm going to come back up the top, making sure I don't come out the sides of the fabric. All right, just like that. And then I'm just going to tie a little knot in my fabric. It might be easier to cut the needle off, so you can just kind of tie a knot in the fabric there, cut off the excess, and then I'm just going to tuck that string down inside and glue that batting closed. So you tuck it down in, glue it, and now you don't even see where I came out at. But again, if you start with quilted fabric already done, you can put your eyes on first before you glue everything together. Or if you sew it the optional way I showed you, or glue it the optional way I showed you of your gingerbread, put your eyes on first. If you use beads, if you're just going to draw them on or paint them on like with a Sharpie marker or a paint pen, you don't have to worry about any of that at first. So now I'm taking 2 inks here, and I'm starting with Distress Oxide ink and Worn Lipstick, and I'm making some really large cheeks. And I know they're really bright, but don't worry, we're going to tone that down a little bit. We're coming back in with this vintage photo ink and just right over the top of that pink, and look how it tones it down. And then I'm going to come around the edges and kind of dirty up our little gingerbread man here a little bit in the center, because we're going to add like a cute little patch like we did on our little mittens there. Do the same on the back side, just to kind of dirty him up a little bit, because the fabric is a little bit light. So I'm just kind of bringing a little bit more color to it. Again, I cut that fabric, I already had that quilted fabric, into a heart, and then sewed around the edges. And then I'm just going to ink that up a little bit so it matches the rest of my gingerbread. Of course, you don't have to sew around the edge if you're not a sewer. Just cut out a heart out of some fabric and glue it on in the center, or add some little buttons there if you want. You don't have to do a patch. That's perfectly wonderful. And now I'm taking a ripped piece of this fabric I get at Walmart, about 1 inch thick, and just tying it into a little bow here to put up right at his neck. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and glue my little patch on first, or put your buttons on. And now I've got some greenery, a little rusty safety pin, a little rusty bell. I will have links down below to the safety pins and the bells that I get. You can rust your own. I'll have a link to my video on how to do that. Or if you're in a hurry like I was, you can go to Etsy and buy your rusty safety pins. The link will be there. I'm going to add that bell to the rusty safety pin, pin it to that bow, and then glue the bow on at the neck of the gingerbread. And then I'm going to add just some little greenery right in that little knot of the center of that bow there. So super cute when it's done. Love it. And you're going to want at least 2, 3, 4 of them when you're complete. Now I'm going to use some ribbon here. You can rip muslin again or any other fabric. I'm using 2 ribbons here. This one is from Hobby Lobby. The other one I got at, I think it's Joann's. The Merry Christmas I love, but the backside's plain. So I'm using this other ribbon from Hobby Lobby to finish off the back side, and I'm just going to sew it together. You could glue it together. Here's what it looks like sewn. It works perfectly wonderful. And then I'm going to make a little loop at each end, just like we've been doing. You can glue it or sew it closed. So that's how we're going to work the end part. Add a little button there, of course. And then I picked up, putting that aside, these wooden spoons off of Etsy. It came 52 a pack. They're 4 inch in length. I'll have a link down below for you. Not a bad price at all for 50 spoons. So I'm going to drill 2 little holes at the top of the spoons. You could just glue them on, okay? But I'm going to drill 2 little holes that looks like this at the top of 5 spoons. And before I put them on, I'm going to use some of this adhesive and a little bit of this kind of sugar cinnamon mixture. This is real. I know a lot of you that might have trouble with mice or anything like that. We don't really have that problem around over here. I will have a link down below. I found on Etsy where it's fake sugar that you can add on there. I'll have a link down below for you. So I'm just spritzing the end of the spoon and pouring the little bit of sugar cinnamon mixture on it to just give it a little something something. And now I've got my gingerbread pinned into place, but I'm going to glue them on first. So those of you that are gluers, wonderful, glue them down. I just pin them so I know where to put them. Glue a nice big strip here, and then you don't have to, but I will go, and I will show it here, of course. I will go in and just kind of sew them by hand, just a couple of stitches as well. But I think if you do, you know, a good nice like Beacon Fabri-Tac glue, it's going to hold on wonderful. But I'm going to be selling these, so I just want to really make sure they are stable. So once I get them glued into position, just a needle and thread, just like this, and I'm just going to kind of pull the top piece of the gingerbread and the batting forward and get to that back piece of felt, right? The one that's kind of glued onto that ribbon there. And I'm just going to do a couple of stitches all the way across to kind of stitch it in to that ribbon. Again, it's not probably really needed, but since I'm selling them, I just want to make sure that nothing's going to happen to them, because I don't want someone coming back at me like, it fell apart. Don't want that. So I'm just doing it's about like 5 stitches all the way across, and I'm using a thread that just kind of matches so you don't really see it on the back side. You know, once I get the stitches, I'll just kind of knot it into place, cut off the excess, and then I just kind of glue that batting down over the top of that so you don't see it. Now I'm going to use some of this hemp cord. You can pick up a local craft store. It's just really thin, and a big needle and thread, and I'm going to go through the hole, like the right side of the hole on the spoon, through the ribbon, right? And then come back through the back side over across to the other hole and pull it forward. And I'm just going to show you one here, but I do it across all the way with all the spoons the same. And then what I'm going to do is just go ahead, once I get, you know, the string through the holes, I'm just going to tie it in a little knot. We're going to cover up that knot and the tails and everything, but, you know, just kind of cut it close to the knot if you want to do it like I'm doing. You could just keep the string long and tie it right into a bow, but I wanted a different color bow, so I'm just tying it closely. Now, it is a little floppy for my taste, so I'm going to just right underneath where there's still some excess ribbon underneath that spoon, I'm going to go ahead and glue it to the spoon and the ribbon together so it's nice and stable. And then I'm going to use that red and cream twine, rusty safety pin, rusty bell. I'm going to pin the bell to the center of that twine bow. All my spoons are on now, and I'm going to glue the knot of that bow right over the top where we tied the spoon into the ribbon so it hides all those raw ends and everything. And I like to leave my tails a little bit long and dangly. That's just my preference and choice. You can certainly cut the tails of your bow a little bit shorter, do it however you want to do it. But I think this is such a cute idea. I was going to just add bells. And I even asked my husband, hey, what bell do you like? You know, because I couldn't decide on the bell I like. And then I went to do something, get the bells that he liked that I liked, and I was like, the spoons, so then I changed it to the spoons. Again, adding a couple of buttons here I've already threaded. We're going to glue those right where we made our little loops at the end, just like we did on the other two garland, just to make it cute. And then I decided just the gingerbread needed a little something more at the top, so I'm bringing in those cute little clothespins again, and I'm just going to glue the clothespin on over the ribbon and the gingerbread to make it look like we just kind of clipped the gingerbread man onto the ribbon. I think it just gives a little something extra. Again, you could ink up the little clothespins if you want, but I left them plain. Glue the last little button on over here. Yep, my buttons are backwards again, using the opposite side. And then I'm going to take a little glitter dust here and shimmer it all. I had a subscriber want to see what the shimmer looked like. So and I'll have a link down below in the description box where I get it from Etsy. I've got a piece of black cardstock here, and I'm just going to spray it onto the cardstock. It's a really clear with really light shimmer, and there's different color shimmers you can get. This is a silver, so I'm spraying it off on the side here, and then this is what it looks like. Really fine shimmer. You don't even see the stuff that comes out, you just see the shimmer. So I wanted to show you what that looked like. I'm going to shimmer that onto my gingerbread. Again, I'll have a link down below to the shimmer. You can get a gold, a silver, whatever colors this gal has. Spray these just a little bit, and that makes this project complete. So I hope you like all the garland that I made for you today. I just wanted one video of all these cute and fun different Christmas garlands. So hopefully I've got a garland of your taste and flavor that you would love to make. Leave me a comment down below and let me know which garland you want to make right now. If you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out and you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another project from me. And do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. It really, really helps my channel to grow. Before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. Be brave no matter where you are in your life, whether it be in the high rise of your career seeking to climb your ladder of success, or whether it be in the never-ending battle of the sickness you are facing. Stand in the gap of your bravery with the strength that God gives you and never let the enemy see you sweat. The enemy thrives on anything that he thinks you are incapable of, but on the flip side, he runs scared when you stand your ground in the shadow of the Almighty God. Allow yourself to depend on God's grace and mercy as you lead you down the very path to which you are called. You must choose to accept God's help in every situation, because trying to take it on all by yourself only makes you physically tired and emotionally weak. Also, when God allows any kind of detour in your success or in your sickness, walk the road with bravery. Stand tall and face your destination with the full armor of God and all the tools that He has equipped you with in this life. Sometimes in your detour, you may battle a huge giant, so you might have to consider a recalculation of another route to defeat this enemy. And that's okay, because God will always provide an opportunity to get you safely to your destination. Try and be content with the route God is leading you on versus always yearning for the familiar roads of the past. Choosing to move forward and accepting God's plan takes courage, and it's okay to take it one step at a time. Overcoming life's challenges can sometimes be daunting and seem impossible, especially when the enemy hurls some of his biggest threats your way. But God can do great and mighty things. Hold on and believe that God is indeed good and will work His best plan for you. He is for you, never against you. Life's challenges are faced, accepted, and fought, sometimes winning, sometimes losing. But the battle always belongs to the Lord. Find the way to respond to your situation with God in your corner so that the enemy looming before you will be defeated. David defeated Goliath with a slingshot and a rock. Two small tools that to most may seem a little inappropriate as a powerful weapon, but it sure is amazing how that rock flew through the air with the proper momentum and speed, landing at just the right angle in the exact right location, and the giant was defeated. David had no physical armor for his protection that day as the giant hurled threats and insults his way, but he had complete and thorough trust combined with his faith in God, and he knew without a doubt that God would protect him and provide a way to defeat the enemy, and God did. So know that with faith, God can help guide you in any situation. Believe that He has enough strength for your heart and that He will be on the very road you walk and in every detour you face. Believe that with bravery, courage, and God's spiritual armor, when the enemy comes at you, God will defeat that giant with the exact calculated movement necessary to give you the best possible outcome for your life. Believe with your whole heart and put your trust in God and the plan that He has for you. He will always give you the hope you need to walk forward with you on your path of life. He will always give you the proper tools to keep you safe from the one who threatens it. And God will always, always protect you no matter what. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.